The Bible isn't just a book of random stories. It's 66 different books that come together to tell one story. An incredible one. About God's love for us. And now for an amazing story. Inspired by the book of John, chapter 15, verses 12 to 13.
Ezra looked around the candlelit table and cleared his throat before speaking his special words for the Passover meal.
How is this night different from all the rest?
As Ezra's father shared how God had saved the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, Ezra looked around at the faces of his family, his mother and older brothers, his grandparents, and even the faces of his Uncle Abel and Aunt Lydia, who came all the way from their village to Jerusalem just for Passover. When the week was over, Ezra would go back home with them for a whole month to play with the new lambs and swim in the creek and enjoy the wide open spaces far away from Jerusalem's noisy, crowded streets.
It's gonna be the best ever.
When the meal was finished, Ezra's mother pulled him aside.
We've let Jesus and his friends use our upper room for their Passover meal. Run up and make sure they've got everything they need.
The city had been buzzing with news of the teacher and miracle worker Jesus, and while all the people, including Ezra's family, loved Jesus, it seemed that the religious leaders were out to get him. Ezra was just excited that Jesus and his followers would be eating in his very own home. He raced for the door.
I'm on it.
Don't bother them, just check.
Ezra quickly climbed the outside stairs, but before he reached the upper room, he could see that the door was open. It sounded as though Jesus and his followers were preparing to leave, though Jesus was still speaking.
If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love. I have told you this so that you will have the same joy that I have.
Ezra knew he should leave, but there was something about Jesus' words, his voice.
Here is my command. Love one another, just as I have loved you. No one has greater love than the one who gives their life for their friends.
Who would do that?
Now, Ezra had heard many rabbis and teachers, but none spoke like this. As soon as Jesus and his friends began to file out the door, Ezra quickly backed down the stairs. He nearly ran into his mother.
Ezra, I wasn't bothering them. It's not that.
In the glow of the lantern, Ezra could see the worried lines in his mother's face. She pulled Ezra aside as Jesus and his companions moved across the courtyard and out into the street.
We just got word that Dan had an accident.
Ezra's best friend Dan lived one street over behind the potter's shop with his father.
But he's okay, right?
It was the fire in the kiln. He stumbled. I want you to take this salve.
Ezra's mother tucked a jar into his hands. Heart pounding, he dashed off into the night, his sandals clattering on the dusty street. Minutes later, Ezra reached the potter's shop. He rushed into the empty workroom past the blazing hot kiln and burst into the back room where Dan and his father slept and ate.
Are you all right?
Dan's father, Obed, leaned over Dan tying a bandage. Sheepish, Dan held up both of his hands, wrapped up in thick layers of cloth.
He'll live.
The burns on my hands hurt a lot, but Dad says I'll be okay.
Ezra held out the jar of salve.
Mother sent this. Maybe it'll help with the pain.
Give her my thanks. And if you don't mind staying with Dan for a few minutes, I need to see to the kiln.
I didn't think you were allowed to mess with the kiln. Yeah, not so much. I just wanted to see if this pot I made was done and... Ow!
Dan accidentally whacked his hand on the side of the bed and winced.
How bad is it really? My hands look like ripe tomatoes. They'll get better, but Dad said it could be like a month till I can really use them.
Ezra carefully sat down beside Dan.
Wow, that's rotten. How are you gonna eat? Or get dressed? I'm more worried about my dad. I mean, it takes me all day to take the sticks and stones out of the clay and knead it so he can use the clay to make pots.
Well, your dad can do that, right?
Well, sure, but it'll take him twice as long to make pots that way. And the tax collector got really mad when he was here last week, and Dad didn't have enough money for him.
Oh.
Hey, come on, we're gonna be fine. You tell me all about your trip.
Ezra closed his eyes so he could remember Uncle Abel's home, just as it had looked when he visited 3 years before.
Well, they have this special little room, right? Up on the roof where I get to sleep instead of crowded in with everybody else. It gets all the cool breezes. And there's this amazing stream with a swimming hole and shade trees, and all the sheep are having their babies right now, and the lambs are just ridiculous. Plus, they have their own donkey I can ride anywhere. Oh man, it's the best place in the whole world.
Dan grinned and eased back against the wall.
You're gonna have the most amazing time ever. And I'll be all better by the time you come back.
Ezra pulled his thoughts back from the swimming hole to the tiny potter's shop. Even though Obed was a master potter, their family didn't have much, and with Dan unable to help for a whole month, things were only going to get worse. Ezra wondered how he would feel, knowing that Dan was in this back room, unable to get himself even a drink of water. That's when words that he'd heard only a short time ago began to drift through his mind once again.
I have told you this, so that you will have the same joy that I have. Love one another, just as I have loved you. No one has greater love than the one who gives their life for their friends. I guess that can actually mean a lot of things. What was that? Oh, nothing. I was thinking, I could wait and go to my uncle's village next year.
What? No! You've been looking forward to this for months.
Yeah, but someone's got to make you eat your lentils. And I've always thought the way you get to knead all that clay looks pretty fun.
Oh, come on. You don't need to do this.
But even though Dan protested, Ezra could see a spark of relief in his eyes.
Of course not, you goof. But I want to. I can hang out with you and help out on the shop, and you'll totally be back to normal in no time.
Well, I mean, if you do, that would be pretty cool.
Here, have some water. The boys laughed as Ezra tried to figure out how to give Dan a drink without completely soaking them both. Ezra was disappointed to miss his trip, but deep down he felt a joy knowing that he could really give up something that mattered for the sake of his friend.